Hello, hello, hello. Who's with me? Aaron, where are you? Hey, Fancy Lou and Jackie is in the house. Jackie, you missed it last night. You missed it last night. It was hilarious. These two heifers had me laughing so hard, I was crying. And Nina was flying monkey and riding Rocky. Was cray cray. Aaron, can you not talk, baby? Aaron's here. I just don't know if he can talk because he's actually at work. Which sucks donkey balls. Oh, the book last night was True Calling, and it's actually one of yours. I mean, one of your kind. All right. Let me answer him right quick. Hey, Joe. I'm talking to your boss, Joe. Okay, Aaron, you may have to. You subscribed already. Yeah, he can't. It's not letting him chat. Tap on the video. All right. Watch, dude. Watch. See my video? Tap on it. Chat. See my video? Tap on it. Chat. See my video? Tap on the video. He's so excited. He's probably sitting there peeing on himself. See? I got you there. Oh, I know he likes to tap. He likes to penetrate too. That right, Aaron? I should have told him to penetrate my head there. By the way, let me clarify this for everybody else that doesn't know what's going on tonight. This is going to be a hot flash night, and a hot flash video, a hot flash read is where you need to get your hot flash kits out. This is mostly for the ladies, but the guys can adapt it to suit them as well. But Joe, in case you didn't know, and anybody else that might be coming on that hasn't learned this yet, a hot flash kit includes something to drink. In my case, it's going to be water. Then you need maybe a fan of some sort because you're going to get hot, and we might want to turn the lights down low, get the mood ready, and then you're going to need something. You're going to need something to occupy yourself during the scenes. So, yeah. So, ladies, get your hot flash kits out. Now, I invited Kaylee and Michelle to come too, but Michelle, depending on what, it's going to be like 7 o'clock in the morning her time. So, right? Candles and shit. Yeah. Make sure you get shit too. Oh, and just so you know, we know I don't do Aussie accents, so this is all going to be read in my southern accent. My mouth guard's in there, and I can't read with a mouth guard, so yeah, I totally get it. But I haven't been known to use a mouth guard and a ball gag and a few other items we won't mention. But yeah. Oh, and make sure you got some fresh batteries too. Gotta make sure everything's working fine. Actually, a southern accent is not a long way, especially if I really turn on the mountain part of it, where I'm saying chair and tar and far and that kind of stuff. It's not a whole lot far away from British, Cockney, whatever you want to call it, non-American English accent. So, all right, who else we got here? Vincy, where's our bitch at? She ain't even on here. See, we got Jackie, Vincy, Joe, Aaron. Okay, people. Aaron just showed me something that might be part of the problem. If you are having a hard time, let me show you what he did to me, so you can see. So, if you can see this, if you're seeing a screen that looks something like this, and you can see me talking, tap on that screen, and it pulls up your chat. So just tap on the screen. Tap on it and it'll pull up the chat. Okay, try that. Oh, okay. I forgot about the takeover. Okay, Joe, a hot flash kit. You need something to drink, wine, tea, water, whatever, tequila, whatever works for you. You need a fan. Hot flash kits are for those really I have viewed it from there. I've played them side by side before. but it's always let me in. I don't know why it does that, Aaron. But hot flush kit includes the something to drink. Where am I going with this? Lord, I'm doing too many. My mind's in 10 different directions. Girls help. Hot flash. Drink. Fan. Well, I'm sitting. Oh, and a toy, Joe. You need a toy of whatever you want so that it will help ease those itches and cravings that you get when it comes time. Whatever works. Aaron, look. On my phone, I do it through the app. On my screen, I do it through the internet. So what are you talking about? All right, Jackie. Aaron makes you keep it on me. I love it, Joe. Yes, but see, you just showed me something no one has ever shown me before. Because we've been going through all this. We've been trying to figure out what is the problem. And when I pull it up, I just automatically, it comes up and I just automatically tap on it, hit play, and my chat comes up. So I wasn't understanding why nobody was finding chat. Oh, hell. All right. Well, I'm getting ready to start because it's 10 after. So we need to make sure we got enough time to get everybody in. So hopefully somebody might want to holler at Kaylee Red, let her know we're on. She could have forgotten. Somebody said toy. Jackie's all ready. All right, so Undisputed, an MMA sport romance. All right, to bring you up, Tegan and Fee or Fiona are the two ladies that we're going to be starting with, but they went to an MMA fight who has Owen, and Owen was the main fighter. He's the champion. He's the the it. And they had backstage passes. Well, Tegan could care less, has no interest in MMA fighting whatsoever. None, zilch. She thought she was going to a concert. And Fee is like all gaga. I mean, she's kind of like I am when I go to a Braves game, to a baseball game, okay? She is all about it. And so they had backstage passes. Well, Owen sees Tegan and ooh la la, the electricity starts flying. So they're all ready. So Owen asked Tegan out. And so long story short, she said, okay, now they are, Tegan and Fee is helping Tegan get ready. Okay. Long story short. Jackie, you'll have to tell Joe about our special little toy, huh? Yeah, I don't bring it in here because then I forget it and I don't have it when I need it. All right. So, Fee says, have you got condoms? The question made Tegan pause in dabbing her lip gloss. She and Fiona were inside the cafe's toilets. Fiona was given what she thought was sound Alabama rushed and manic advice as Tegan got changed. Don't look like that, Fiona said with a mock finger of admonishment. Safety is everybody's responsibility. I'm not going to screw him. What? Why? Because I hardly know him for starters. Are you serious? This is Owen Gasnier we're talking about. This is Owen Gasnier we're talking about. Yeah, to you, babe. To me, he's a handsome guy that asked me out. That's all. And made out with you twice in the space of 24 hours. You are so lucky you're not a fight fan. Anyone else would be freaking the fuck out. But she was freaking the fuck out. Her mind was whizzing. Hey, if somebody wants to send me a picture of your toy, I'll show it to her on here. But I ain't got time to look it up. Joe, I may have to, I'll send you a link for it from Amazon. They're cheap too. I mean, well, inexpensive. She was freaking out. Her mind was whizzing at 100 miles an hour. The condom question had only reinforced her confusion. Was sex in the cards? Would he expect it? She'd like to think not, but he was the biggest celebrity she'd ever met. She knew of girls that were pursued by football players and vice versa. Most were used as cheap pieces of arse. What's more, it was commonly accepted by both parties that this was the case. The girls just wanted to say they screwed someone famous. Tegan's last boyfriend had taken off over a year ago. He had balked at the idea of meeting her family when she asked if he could take time off work for her cousin's wedding. He didn't even feel right about going to visit her parents' graves with her. She hadn't been in a relationship or gotten laid since. See? Things had just been pottering along stale, familiar, boring. The one thing cutting through her anxiety and questions about tonight was her sense of adventure. She had been asked out by an MMA fighter. Was it a big deal? Did it mean nothing? Who knew? Who cared? If she went into this with an open mind and few expectations, she'd be okay. But the biggest expectation she had was the same for all of her first dates. No sex. She checked the clock right on time. Okay, I'm ready. Fiona walked Tegan out to the front door, and they both spotted him across the road, leaning against the side of a car, looking over at them. Fiona gave Tegan a quick hug and then set her free, chanting softly, "Work it, baby, work it." She approached him, the small grin on his face giving her butterflies. "Hi," she said, to which he replied by taking her hand and bringing it to his mouth. "Shall we?" "We shall." He helped her into the car and headed across to the driver's side, giving Fiona a wave before getting in and taking off. "So, where are we heading?" she asked. "Ah, well now, that's a great question. Bullshit answers is, I have an amazing night planned." Tegan furrowed her eyebrows and tried not to laugh. "And the real one?" This was spontaneous as all get out, and I have no idea where to take you. Tegan snorted, chuckling. "You beat a guy in 8 seconds because you're so precise, but you can't decide what to have for dinner?" He shrugged. "So sue me." Tegan looked out the window. "Got an idea. Park when you can." "Here?" "Here." When they got out, Tegan didn't wait for him to open the door for her, but she did wait for him to join her, nodding her head at their destination as he did. They faced a food truck parked on the small grassed over area under Circular Quay train station. "You're serious?" he asked. "Best fish and chips in Sydney." Tegan waited in line for a minute or so before it was her turn, and she gave her order. The man behind the counter looked to be in his 50s. He was extremely well presented clothes-wise, and every appliance inside the food truck gleamed. The man's face, though, was a different story. Tegan had seen it before, in her own reflection at times. Exhaustion. She couldn't help but ask if he was okay. He thanked her for asking. His only other staff member had gotten married last week. This had been his 10th straight shift. As she stepped aside and waited, Gasnier approached the counter. The owner's eyes got wide as recognition struck, and a beaming smile suddenly adorned his face. All the tiredness had evaporated, and he bounded out of the truck and down to shake the fighter's hand. The owner was rattling off his praise quickfire, words coming from a million miles an hour. He wasn't at the fight last night, but he closed early and went to the pub to watch the main event. Just like with Fiona, Gasnier took it all in stride, smiling and thanking him for his support. 20 minutes later, after more praise and several selfies with Gasnier, Khan, as he told them to call him, was so joyous in the night's turn of events, he had given them a whole heap of extra food. Before they left, Tegan noticed Gasnier shook the man's hand one last time, putting a few crisp green $100 notes in there. Khan refused passionately, trying to return the cash, but it was respectfully dismissed. Please, brother, I'll be offended. You're killing yourself trying to provide a service and make a living, like we all are. Take tomorrow off, sleep in. Take your wife out for a nice meal, something for yourself. I want you still here when I come back, yeah? It was said in such good humor that Khan was stunned. Tegan and Gasnier walked away, but she turned back to wave, noticing Khan press the cash to his chest, almost tearing up with gratitude. They hadn't gone more than 20 meters when Gasnier was approached. It was a man with his son asking for an autograph. Sure, Gasnier said, placing the food in the man's hand. Hold this, and you got a deal. He signed a torn-off strip of paper from the food and asked to see the boy's best punch to his outstretched hand. The lad was only 9 or so, but gave it his best go. When Gasnier pulled back and gave his hand a ring, all the while cringing, the boy's eyes lit up. Owen Gasnier had just told him how strong he was. When they were alone again, he took her by the hand and said, Let's go. She had to jog to keep up with him as they headed away from the water, where most people did their walks along the quay, to a spot under a huge tree. Underneath its branches was drenched in darkness, but the lights of the harbor could be easily seen in the distance. She knew what he was doing. He wanted privacy. Is it always like this wherever you go? Doesn't it get annoying? She asked, sitting next to him under the tree. Sometimes, but being back home makes everything heightened, I think. MMA isn't as popular here as other places where it's almost a religion. But we are a proud sporting nation and crave winning. Right now, I'm a winner, he replied, squeezing lemon juice over the crispy batter. Right now? Yeah. With my record in the spotlight, undefeated sounds really nice. So many people get inspired. They like winning. They want to associate with winners. That's kind of a cold way to look at things, isn't it? Not if it's the truth. I never kid myself that I'm anything more than a popular athlete. I don't save lives. I don't bust criminals. I just haven't been beaten in a violent contact sport, so I'm interested at the moment. Tegan leant forward to grab more chips. I don't think you believe that deep down. You wouldn't have given Con that money if you did. And the look the boy gave you, you aren't interesting to him. You are his superhero. He gave a small smile and half shrug. I help if I can, but I know what I am. You're a superhero. Hardly. I'm just a regular guy. Superheroes inspire people. I was in the crowd last night, remember? I know nothing of fighting, but I know people. That crowd was packed. Oh, now she decides to show up and starts throwing around. No, hello, everybody. I'm here. Just blah, 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 all business. It's just like Nina. That crowd was packed in there to see you. I think you're easily dismissing the effect you have over people. What effect do I have over you? The change in conversation and tone sent shivers down her arms. It was hard to describe and yet easy. You inspire me, she said, picking up a fish fillet in her fingers. To shove this in your mouth if you don't tell me what's so scary about meaning something to people. You really want to know? Yes. Gasner got comfortable, easing back and raising his knee so it bent. Tegan gazed over the tight jeans that wrapped around his toned legs and the impressive bulge that puffed from his new position. Bulges puff? Oh, I hope not. I hope it rose to the occasion. She dragged away her eyes eventually to give his answer the attention it deserved. It means so much that fans come up to me. Sure, I wish some days I could just go for dinner without getting approached. But it's a small price to pay. The thing is, with my mindset and lifestyle, I can't afford to believe any of the hype. Believing it is the first step to failure, to defeat. I would lose focus. This actually brings me to something about us. I struggled before I picked you up as to whether to even bring this up. This, here, he said, gesturing to her and then back to him. I find you really attractive for many reasons, but the fact is, I'm leaving in a few days. I don't know the next time I'll be here. I was supposed to be gone already, but I don't want you to think I'm stringing you along or not taking you seriously. I knew you wouldn't be here for long. I appreciate the consideration, but I'm a big girl and can usually spot things well in advance. Nina, you got your toys going yet? Does that mean you know I was going to kiss you today? Lie. Totally. I could see it coming a mile of. She stopped in mid sentence as his lips pressed against hers. Could you see that? He asked softly. She slowly gripped the collar of his shirt tighter. Shut up, she said just before bringing him in. She teased his tongue with hers, and they stayed there like that for what could have been an hour. Her fingers scraped the same bulge she found as he moved down to the side of her neck, working her skin over briefly with his wet lips. And then he cupped her face and asked, Do you want me to stop? She still had her eyes closed, trying to control her breathing, but she shook her head. He hesitated. Moving his thumbs across her cheeks, she could feel him struggle with what he wanted to say next. My place? She moved her fingers along the back of his head, caressing his hair, letting his scent fill her senses. This was so sudden, but that didn't make it wrong, did it? She told Fiona she wouldn't, but here, now, she couldn't think as to why she'd said it. There were no illusions. He had been so open, so sweet to her. He was only in town a few days. For whatever reason, they were attracted to each other. He wanted her. Why couldn't she have some fun with him? It was only sex in the end, and if they were both on the same page, no one would get hurt. Let's go, she whispered. He took her hand again. Chapter 4. He took her hand again and led her past his car, keeping to the side street so as not to be noticed by anyone. She didn't ask why they weren't driving. She thought she knew, and her belief was confirmed when they rounded the corner of an alleyway to find Kingsman Apartments, the most recent construct of the Harbor Line. So, this was where he was staying. They crossed the lobby, moving past the man desk. The concierge type behind it waved to them. Well, not really both of them. Evening, Mr. Gassner. Remember what we talked about, Phil, he replied as they came up to the elevator. Oh, yes. Evening, Gaz. That's better, he replied, flashing that cheeky grin as the elevator dinged its arrival. He ventured in after her, the doors closed, and they stood in silence for several seconds. You like the name Gaz? Less formal, he replied. Tegan hummed at that, looking around the lush elevator and drumming her fingers on the gold-colored railing. Have I ever told you moving elevators turn me on, Gaz? He faced her, deliberately coming closer, so she had to press her back against the cold wall. Really? He said, running his thumb along her lips and bringing the fingers of that hand down her chest. Slowly, just brushing her outfit down in between her breast to her stomach. Tegan held her breath, looking straight at him as the carriage jiggled with its ascent. His hand went past her belly and she let out a quick breath. A shocked sigh. He had grazed her groin with the flat of his palm and curled his fingers under the hem of her skirt. She kept eye contact as he made a tighter fist holding it, not daring to blink as the skirt crawled its way up her thighs. She clenched the railing harder as the tightness around her upper thighs increased. She bit her lip and leant her head back. His fingers were centimeters away from her underwear, but his grip was deliberately tightening her skirt around her legs as it rose, teasing her. Please touch me. He extended two of his fingers, gently caressing her slippery thighs. She had wanted him to know how wet she was. He gave her the sexiest smile just out of the corner of his mouth that she had ever seen as the doors to his floor opened. Follow me. It didn't take long. I hear one of Nina's toys already. It didn't take long for them to reach his apartment as it was right opposite the elevator. With a flick of his wrist, the key turned and the door opened. Tegan stepped inside and waited for the door to close before wrapping her arms around his neck. Where's... She paused, accepting his kiss. The bedroom. He lowered himself and swept her up into his arms, carrying her down the hall and into the spacious master suite. A four-poster bed lay at one side of the room, decorated with a cream floor and red velvet wall and ceiling color scheme. Red and white. To her right sat a huge walk-in wardrobe, the outside of which was mirrored. She saw herself being carried in and dropped on the bed, but then diverted her eyes to him, looking at her as she slowly moved backwards on the bed, silently begging him to come for her. He kept his eyes on her as he kicked his shoes off and then crawled over the bed to her. He was on top of her in seconds, kissing her deep and slow as she unbuttoned his tight dress shirt. Once she freed the first few buttons, she spread the shirt over his sculpted chest and was running her fingertips along his pectorals when a pendant hanging from a chain around his neck smacked her hand. It didn't hurt, but it was a sharp little bump. The pendant gleamed in the low light of the room, so much so that Tegan picked it up and held it gently. A red V. What's this? A good luck charm my grandmother gave me. What the crap? How the crap did I get up there? All right, sorry about that, guys. It went crazy on me. Okay, so I'm going back. It skipped almost to the end. Apparently, when I hit the corner, and then of course I go back and it's not at the bottom anymore, it's in the middle. What's this? A good luck charm my grandmother gave me. Does it work? He smiled and leaned in to kiss her and caress her face. Worn it for years. I'm undefeated, and I'm feeling pretty lucky right now. She felt him settle on top of her as she continued to return his kisses passionately and went back to unbuttoning his shirt. When she reached his belt, his hand slid up her thighs to her underwear. With a slight raise of her hips, she slid them down past her legs into the floor. A second later, I did get excited. A second later, the zipper of his fly was down, and Tegan reached with both hands into his pants. Ooh. What she found, she needed two hands to get out. Damn. Oh, gosh. She moaned, holding the base of him with one hand. She let out a loud sigh as his fingers pressed against her before removing his hand and brushing his fingers down her lips. Fingers she managed to nip with her mouth, trying to suck them. Call me Owen, he said, sitting up, taking the fingers into his own mouth one by one. He licked away all traces of her. She watched him swallow, and then he peeled off his dress shirt. His body was gorgeous. Greek statues of the gods held less muscle definition than him. She followed suit by sitting up and taking her dress off, tossing it aside. She leant forward and, reaching behind to unclip her bra, repeatedly kissed his chest, letting her tongue snake out to taste him. He cupped her face to keep her where she was and enjoying her mouth. Soft moans escaped him before he turned her face up and swept his tongue past her lips. She responded in kind, gripping his obliques. That's part of that V, girls, as their tongues fought with each other, his mouth waging war against hers. Such was the passion he kissed with. Such was his hunger for her. She fell back with him, and he moved down the front of her neck to her chest. He wet his lips and used them and his teeth to graze over her chest while teasing her with slow, swirling licks. Tegan had her forefinger in her mouth, biting down harder and harder the lower he went, letting the tingles reach all the parts of her body. She shuddered as he got to her hip bones, softly kissing his way down to her groin. Oh, God, yes, she breathed, placing both hands on top of his head, trying to bring him to where she wanted him, where she needed him. But he snatched her hands and held them down beside her thighs, and he wouldn't let go. Tegan looked down for a brief moment, but rocked her head back with a gasp. She made both hands into fists and gave an almost whimper like sound. The urge to touch herself was peaking, and the restraint he was putting on her wrist were driving her crazy. Her hips bucked almost of their own accord. She had never submitted to power like this. Helpless in being pleasured, unable to move, she merely succumbed to his delicious assault. She opened her eyes and looked down directly into his, completely calm and in control, as opposed to her gasping, sweat beaded self. The wet, sucking sounds rang in her ears, but she didn't pay much attention. She didn't care how weird they sounded. They did not break on eye contact until he gave a small wiggle of his mouth over her. Oh, fuck! She said as her orgasm exploded from within without warning. Sparks popped from behind her clenched eyelids as for all too brief a moment she felt weightless. Twitching, shaking, she realized he had let her hands go, but how long ago she didn't know. Sensations were coming back to her. She could now feel him running his hands along the outside of her thighs, giving her time to settle. He stood and stepped out of his jeans, rock hard, as his eyes burned a hole through her. He collected some saliva on his fingers and worked his hand over the shaft, looking from her face to between her legs. She hooked her hands behind her knees, opening herself up and biting her bottom lip. Fuck me. He didn't need a second invitation. Positioning himself between her legs, he curled back so that he was directly over her, looking down into her eyes as he eased his way in slowly, enjoying the feeling of her soft, saturated skin opening more and more for him. Tegan opened her mouth and gripped his forearms, watching between her legs as inch after inch continued to disappear into her. His hands held her hips still as she felt him bury himself to the hilt, his face clenched, fully filling her. The look on his face as he slowly eased himself out and then in, over and over, had her fixated. He looked nowhere else but her face, feeling her around him, moving slowly but building force. He slid his hands from her hips up her body, pressing hard against the skin of her breast and then past her chest to her throat. He caressed her face, but placing the tip of his finger in her mouth, allowing her to take it in between her teeth to suck it. With his other hand, he gripped her throat just a little harder. There was a moment of realization when she knew what he intended to do. There was a moment of inner questioning, but also without thinking. Tegan let his forearms go and put her hands beside her head. She nodded her agreement, her approval, her trust. As his grip tightened, his movements got rougher, his gaze hardened, sinking lower, taking himself out of her and slamming into her. His positioning and body weighted pinned her down, and she loved it. Her hands gripped the sheets, the sounds of pleasure restricted by his hand around her throat. She hissed against his thumb as her head swirled, and a soft pounding popped through it as air became less and less available. Every pop sent a mini burst of adrenaline through her, and he seemed to know, hitting her body with every thrust over and over. She felt like she was floating and was lost in the feeling as she watched the look of pure joyous lust on his face when his eyes rolled back into his head and he groaned from behind a sucked in bottom lip at how she felt wrapped around him. Tegan had never felt so erotically charged at the look on a man's face just from the feeling of her. He snatched his hands away from her throat and mouth. He used one hand to lift her leg over his shoulder and the other flicked her clit with the same thumb she had sucked. The sudden access to air plus his newly intensified thrust caused her to scream into the nearest pillow, which she frantically grasped on top of her face, coming a second time. Within seconds, he removed himself from her and pumped all over her stomach. He sank down to lay beside her, and she slowly turned to her side to face him. They lay in silence, allowing their collective breathing to slow down. She had so much she wanted to say, yet no words came. Whatever she said, it wouldn't give that experience justice. Then reality hit her. They had come up here to his apartment for sex, and sex had happened. Amazing, mind blowing, scintillating sex. But it was over. The last thing she wanted to do was overstay her welcome. Do you mind if I shower before I go? You don't have to, he replied. She smiled and patted his face. She was sure he was trying to be nice. She showed him her stomach as a reminder, a subtle hint she knew she should get going. I gotta clean up. She walked with slightly wobbly legs to the bathroom and sat on the toilet, desperate to pee, before turning on the shower. She had brought no body lotion, but looked down to see an assortment of products. What the hell? Smelling like him wouldn't be too bad. She lathered up quickly and turned when the door to the shower opened and she was no longer alone. Hey, she started with a quizzical tone. What are you? He pushed her into the wall and wrapped his arms around her with the water cascading down the both of them. He attacked her tender but willing mouth once more, only pulling back to whisper, Don't go. It was 1 second, perhaps two, but she gave a mini jump and hopped into his arms as he held her steady against the shower walls, sinking her onto him already hard. Had it even gone down? She didn't know, but she did know that her night wasn't over yet. He didn't want it to be over, and truthfully, neither did she. Owen groggily opened his eyes to find her facing away from him, yet with his hand over her shoulder, tucked into her breast. He was holding her even in sleep. He had no idea what time it was, but the sunlight glowed from behind the drawn curtains. She slept so peacefully. He watched her body gently rise and fall for a few brief seconds before placing a delicate kiss on her back and another down her spine. She gave a tiny moan but fell back to sleep. He took it as a sign he needed to work harder to get her attention. He ran his fingertips along her rib cage, pressing his erection into her. I need water. His phone tingled its ringtone, and he cursed to himself and reached for the handset. "I'll get it," came her voice. She wasn't even groggy. She'd been awake for some time. She reached for his phone and playfully tossed it across the room as she twisted around to plant her mouth on his before leaning up, spitting on her fingers and gripping his cock. That's a good thing. That means I'm using a lot of oxygen here. That could have been important, he chuckled as she shifted lower down the bed, holding his cock straight. "Answer it if you won't. I'm not stopping you," she replied playfully before sinking her mouth on him, moaning as her lips stretched to accommodate him. Her head bobbed slow and deep as she held the base before gently following her mouth with a partial fist, sucking and pumping. He dropped to his back and placed a hand at the back of her head. "Fuck it. Let them leave a message." Robert hung the call up, his ears burning as Owen's voicemail echoed through his phone. Robert couldn't believe it. He'd fallen asleep. Robert is Owen's dad and manager, right? Manager? Anyway, yeah. Business manager. "So, where is the superstar?" He turned to the owner of Horde Car Company. He has specifically flown in from Greece for this meeting, and Owen had missed it and recovery. Owen had never been late a day in his life. He'd been told about the sponsored meeting. He'd blown it. What the hell had happened to him? How the hell was Robert going to fix this? "I don't understand," Tegan asked, her underwear in her hand. Owen had been close to coming, and she was just getting into the groove when he swore and gently eased her face off his dick. He was now racing around for his clothes. "Did I do something?" "No, no, not at all. It's my fault. I'm supposed to be at the gym doing a photo op thing with a rich bigwig and forgot all about it. Trust me, I'm sorrier I had to stop you." He got in front of her and, still half dressed, reached up to touch her face. "I'm sorry, really. Don't think you have to rush off." "It's okay. I'll get going." "You don't have to. Stay as long as you like. I've got no idea what time I'll be back, but stay if you want. Please." Tegan smiled. "Get going." "Okay, okay, okay," he said, slipping out of the bedroom door. But a second later, he opened the door and peeked his head through. "You're staying, though, right?" She giggled and tossed a shoe at the door before he finally left. She planted herself on the bed and ran a hand through her tousled hair. Naked, alone in a one-night stand's house, well, one night and 10% of the morning, did it still count as one night if it was all night? She reached down for her bag and phone. Damn, only 27% battery. She would have to freshen up quick and head out. She spotted her social media notifications and then a handful of missed calls and texts, most of them from Fiona. Shit, how best to handle this? She called Fiona and nestled herself into the soft mattress, stretching as the phone rang twice before being picked up. "Hello? You've reached Mother Superior Fiona, holier soother of wanton harlots, for instant forgiveness from the sin of fornication. Please say how much of a hoe bag you are." "I plead the fifth." "This ain't America, Scarlet Woman. Confess your sins so that you may be saved." I'm still at his place. Tegan had to hold the phone away from her ears. Such was the delighted squeal booming through it. "I knew it, you slut! I hate you! I'm going to suck the tongue out of your head just so I can taste his dick. What was it like? Please, please, please tell me it was good. Was it great? How big is he? Is he kinky? Babe, you're gonna burst something." "Fuck that. My best vibrator is called Owen, bitch. I need to hear this." The fact I'm still here should give you some indication. I'm sorry, the number you have requested is not in our system. Please try again. Tegan sighed. It was the best sex of my life. That's all you're getting. And the truth that shall set you free. Tegan yawned as Fiona could be heard stomping her foot, repeating the word yes. Well, I gotta go get my stuff and head off, babe. I'll see you tomorrow at work. Did you need me to come pick you up? Huh. That wouldn't have anything to do with wanting to see where he lives, would it? How dare you? She replied with mock outrage. I was simply offering to aid a sister in need. I've even got an old wheelchair somewhere since you probably can't walk. Now, my phone may... Another Aussie just messaged me. Now, my phone may or may not make an appearance. Selfies at the scene of the crime or may not be taken, and I may or may not spend a few minutes rolling around in his bed smelling that aftershave. You may or may not be sick in the head. I'm Fiona. No, may not about it. Boom. Oh, this would totally be Nina. Love you, Nina. Tegan chuckled as she got to her feet. I'll call you later. There she was, just a-limping down the street, singing do-a-diddy. Fiona sang as her farewell. Tegan hung up and tossed the phone on the bed. Time for a shower, and then she'd head home. Should she write a note? Leave her number? Hell, if she wrote a note, it would be several A4 pages long. Was she presuming too much to leave her number? That was okay, right? Not too desperate. It was safe to say they had gone beyond the label of a one-night stand. The fact he had wanted her to stay last night proved that. The fact she did stay without any hesitation proved it too. Whether it was just exceptionally great sex for the both of them, Tegan wasn't sure. Right now, as she stepped into his shower for the third time since arriving here, it didn't matter. She checked herself in his shaving mirror. No marks, no bruises. She was sure with the way the night went on and the more rigorous they both became, there would be some lasting memory of what they'd done. She felt a little disappointed the teeth marks she left on him were the only reminders of it. Oh well, she dried herself and put the same clothes on that she wore the night before. She double-checked her belongings and then picked up her phone to check the time. 2 new missed calls from Fiona, a text message too. Fifi, babe, have you seen the news? Tegan opened the web browser on her phone. Her homepage was up to the minute local news. Her eyes scanned the headline. The only thing she saw, MMA star in road collision. Tegan stared at the headline for a few seconds, repeating it over in her head. Before clicking the link and a quick twitch of her thumb, she let out a slow breath as the screen came up with a very short paragraph. Australian MMA superstar Owen Gassner has allegedly been involved in a 2-car smash on the M5 highway. More information will be released as details are made available. Are you fucking kidding me? She hissed. That's it? That's the info you give? Tegan paced the bedroom, trying to push down the feeling of panic in her chest. It's okay, she told herself. Calm down. You don't know anything bad has happened. It's a smash. She realized she had no way of getting in contact with him, nor he with her. They didn't have each other's numbers. They had swapped bodily fluids, but not numbers. But why would he? Even if he could. Get a grip. He was on a one-night stand that's turned into a fling, and that's all you are to him. That's all he is to you. Do not do this to yourself. Do not fall for this guy. Do not cry. A phone inside the apartment rang, snapping her out of her inner war. But it wasn't her place to answer his phone. It rang out and then immediately rang again. What if it was Owen's dad? trying to reach him. What if he didn't know? Either way, he would surely have Owen's number and could reach him. She picked up the handset. Hello? A rather cheery and relieved voice replied, Oh, oh, thank God you're still there. I was hoping you would be. It was Owen. She blurted out in relief. What happened? Are you okay? Did you need anything? Is that why you called? Whoa, whoa, he said just as cheerfully. Everything is okay. I'm fine. No one got hurt. I went too quickly through a yellow light and clipped another car. It's what I got. It's what I get for rushing. Are you what? That's it? You had a prank? The news said it was a two-car smash. They always beat up the story. The only issue was I got out of the car at first to see if the other guy was okay. He was and wanted to forget about insurance and all that if I gave him a couple $100 to fix the dent and took a picture with his girlfriend. So we pulled over out of traffic. One car saw it with me, so it was me, so stopped. Another car did the same. And you know how that song and dance goes. Tegan started to relax as his easygoing tone got to her. So, did you need something from me? No, I just wanted you to know I was okay. You did? Really? Well, I figured you might hear or see something and, don't have my number. I didn't want you to worry. Oh, shit. I've got another call coming. Can you give me your number, please? Tegan hid the sniffle well as she rattled off and then repeated her number for him. He thanked her and hung up. Only when the line went dead did she feel she could wipe away the small beginnings of tears, as if because she wasn't talking to him, it somehow made it less stupid, showing such relief that he was fine, that she had worried for nothing. Hell, that she had worried at all was confusing enough. Her phone pinged a message and she knew it was probably him. Owen, I did forget to ask one thing you could do for me possibly. Me? What's that? Owen, stay. Owen finished texting and then answered his phone. Hello? What? Oh, let me get Papa Voice on here. What happened? Robert snapped. Owen rattled off an apology over being late, but was stopped before he could got started. Fuck that. With the car, I meant. Oh, yeah. I was rushing to get there. All good. No bad damage. No injuries. Just lots of selfies. Hence the media crap. Traffic is moving now. I'm getting back in. Okay, as long as you're on your way. This guy seems to think the reason you were late is because of this crash, and I've let him think it. We still have a chance to get him on board. It's worth almost $2 million. Owen placed his forearm on the bonnet and waved to a car of yelling fans that drove past. What have I got to do? Well, put his logo on your shorts. That's basic. But things like appearances at his dealership and commercials, and of course, no scandals. Owen laughed. I'll keep my scandals to a minimum then. I'll time them right just for him. Oh, I'm serious. You may think I'm a senile old fool, but we are living off the money made from fights. All our expenses come off that. Training, living, and supplies too. We need another source of income just in case these guys at the top of the business figure out that's how to get you. I've kept you away from sponsors as most of them are leeches wanting to cash in or sharks that treat fighters like puppets to dance on strings. But the time has come. It's a simple deal based on your popularity, and you don't have to do anything demeaning or that goes against your values. Number one contender match is in less than 4 months. We need this. So get over here and meet the man so you can get the ball rolling. Owen sighed. His dad made too much sense to ignore. On my way. The drive over wasn't long. Hell, he probably could have made it in less than 15 minutes given the way he was driving before the bump. Or he could have been wrapped around a light post. Nothing was worth dying over. Come on, get your head on straight. Focus had never been his problem. He wanted something, he got it, but never in a spoiled, selfish way. He worked at it, broke down his defenses, and claimed victory. Whether it was an opponent or anything else in life, there was nothing he wanted more than the title. If his dad thought this was the best way to get there, with his integrity intact, Owen was all for it. So he had to shake a few hands, pose for a few pictures. Big deal. The fact he hated it wasn't the point. People were out there struggling to make ends meet, like Khan from last night. Those were the real fans, the ones that had nothing to offer Owen except thanking him for a brief moment of his time to chat. The little kids that wanted so badly to hug him, they sprinted from their parents' hands and crushed his legs with their bodies, wrapping their arms around him like he was Santa. Those were the people he was excited to meet, the people he wanted to help if possible. What he told Tegan was the truth. He didn't want to believe his own hype or the love people had for him. He didn't ask to be a role model or a hero. If people thought he was, that was their business. The day he started behaving the way other people expected him to, he might as well throw himself to the wolves. He had to be himself, always. He owed himself and any fan of his that. What you saw was what you got. His dad was right about a lot of sponsors. Owen wasn't a puppet. He wouldn't dance unless he heard music. He wouldn't throw a fight for money. He gave his best in the ring and outside it. Whatever happened after that was out of his control. Owen stepped inside the gym where Robert and whoever this was were waiting for him. He was introduced by Robert. This is Mr. Dominic Damascus. Thank you for making that an easy name to remember. Dominic Damascus. Owen shook his hand, thankful to find it firm. Sorry I was late. Damn traffic, Owen said with an air of annoyance. Dominic waved it off. No matter, my friend. Just as long as you are all right. Just a few bumps and bruises, eh? Owen smiled and nodded before Robert interjected. Let's have a seat. All three sat at a makeshift table. At the moment his arse hit the seat, a tray of glasses and a huge bottle of water were brought over. Girls dressed in sports bras and tight shorts attended to them, all with an imprint of Damascus' name on the legs of their shorts. Do you have a cheer squad when you leave the house, mate? Dominic grinned. They are your cheer squad, actually. Your co-stars for the commercials. Oh, okay. What are their names? Dominic laughed. Oh, I don't know. They're new. Anyway, we have done research and you rate more popular with women than men, but the numbers are quite close. We believe in equality between the sexes. Women and men buy cars for themselves and each other. Owen Gassner and beautiful women selling our cars. Best of both worlds. Speaking of, Dominic turned and clicked his fingers. A few seconds later, a young girl who looked no more than 19 brought forth some stapled pages. What Owen presumed was his contract. As the girl turned to leave, Dominic gave her several light taps on the arse as her dismissal. Now, it's all quite simple, Dominic stated, but Owen wasn't listening. He looked at the three girls that had served them their bottle of ridiculously expensive looking water, and now had retreated to facing them, their backs to the mirrored wall of the gym. So, this was equality between sexes? Excuse me, Owen said, interrupting him. Clicks his fingers, taps her fucking arse. He rose and walked over to the girls, starting from left to right. Hi, I'm Owen. Who are you? Her eyes went slightly wide, a delighted tone in her voice as she replied, Julia. He took her hand and held it. Hi, Julia. Nice to meet you. One by one, he introduced himself the same way. He stepped back and looked from one to the other. Ladies, I'm delighted to work with you. Would you please have a seat? But there's no chairs, Julia said. Well, you are more than welcome to mine. I'm sure the other gents would offer theirs. There is water too, believe it or not. The girls hesitated for a moment, but Robert rose quickly, gesturing to his seat. Though it took a few more seconds, many more, Dominic eventually stood. When he did, finally, and all the girls had sat, Robert poured the water in the glasses for them. Dominic didn't seem pissed by Owen's interruption, or if he was, he hit it well. So, once everything is filmed and set, you will receive the full amount via wire to your chosen account. If I may ask, what do the girls get? They'll get a set amount per hour. Owen gave a sound. That doesn't seem right. You are the face of the campaign, and you will be paid according to that. Dominic looked to Robert as if asking if his son was well in the head. Owen, Robert said. Owen closed his eyes briefly. Maybe he was making something out of nothing. The clicking of the fingers had really rubbed him the wrong way. Plus, that they were made to stand there and not speak. He shook his head. Sign the fucking thing. Get it done. Make Robert happy and stress less. It's for the title. All roads from here lead to your dream. Owen leant over Owen leant over and signed his name on the paper. He shook hands rather reluctantly with Damascus and took his leave after farewelling the girls. Once outside, Robert caught up to him. Owen turned and faced him. You know what the deal was worth? Why bring it up? You don't talk figures like that in a business deal. You know that. Oh, Owen turned and faced him. You knew what the deal was worth. Why bring it up? You don't talk figures like that in a business deal. You know that. He just. Owen shook his head. He pissed me off. What the hell has gotten into you? He pissed you off so you think to ruffle his feathers? Are you 12? It's a multi-million-dollar contract. There are other things more important than money, like self-respect. I'm almost done here, so we got started late, so we're going to finish up here. Robert scowled. What about that made your self-respect come into question? The fact the girls didn't have chairs, the fact that we need pricks like that. We mostly kept our way away from them. Now it seems when we have gone so long without them, when we are so close. Son, I told you what was going on. Don't you think I checked the guy out? He wants you to advertise his business. That's it. You give him time, he gives you payment. You've done all this before, just never when your popularity has been this high. He sees this in you, and that's why the offer was made. And you give him shit because he doesn't pay his modeling girls more money. Look, it's not about that. I get it. The guy gives me shitty vibes. I don't dance unless I hear music, and I don't pretend to like someone if I think they're a slimy cunt. Robert touched his forehead, frustrated. You may not like it, but it's business. And in business, we need to get in bed with people you'd rather not sometimes. It's just what you do. No, you know what I'm doing, what we are doing, compromising what feels right for cash. We have never done this. Look, it's not just about the girls. I read my requirements. I have to agree to appear naked or semi-naked in some of the advertising campaigns. What the fuck has that got to do with selling cars? Robert shrugged. Sex sells, and women, and a few guys, I suppose, want you. Damascus is hoping they also want to buy cars. Oh, these men voices tear up my throat. Owen held up a hand, tired of this, getting his keys out. Look, I'll fulfill my contract. I've said my piece. I don't care if it's 2 million or 30. I still wouldn't think it's right. So sue me. I just want to fight. I know that's only part of the game. Everyone does. This here is too. I just want to get in bed with someone that doesn't think of me as a commodity or a celebrity. Makes me feel I'm worth more, not less. Robert held his son by his shoulders. Just calm down. I know. If you find one, keep them and let me know. Owen nodded and shook his father's hand before getting in the car and driving back to the one place he wanted to be. As crazy as it was, once out of the elevator, he paused outside his front door, key out. He hadn't messaged or called her on the drive back. He didn't want her to think he was trying to force her. He was playful in his requests for her to stay, though. He really did mean them. It shocked and surprised him how much he wanted her to still be in the apartment. He was only in Sydney for 2 more days, and the thought of not spending more time with Tegan bothered him more than it should. What also bothered him was the thought of potentially opening the door to find she had gone. And that's where I'm stopping. Didn't quite make it to where we talked about Aaron, but that's all right. Okay, so did I lose everybody? Do I still have everybody? Hey, Serena, you made it. I have a Fifi a BFF. She's called Ori in here and Nina everywhere else. And I have Vinci. So I have 2 BFFs. But Nina is definitely a Fifi. Vinci grounds me. And Jackie just pushes me into trouble. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much for letting me read it. All right, y'all. I know Nina posted on here where and what and how and all that good stuff. So go get the book. Aaron's got to get back to work. Lord have mercy. I've done took up. He's going to get fired. He's going to get fired. All right. So y'all go get the book. I got a live read Sunday, but I don't even know who it is. So be here at 1:00 because I've got to look at my schedule. So I have not been in my book mode this week. I didn't know till this morning who I was even reading today. Callie Bixton. Star-Crossed Secrets. So it looks like it's going to be another love story. So everybody show up. Those that want to, show up here Sunday, 1:00 p.m. That's that hour afternoon. And go get Aaron's book. I'm going to have to finish this front to back. And there might be, stick with me, there might be some more on the schedule coming up. So all right, everybody, have a good one, and I will chit-chat at you later. Stay warm, everybody. Go find somebody to snuggles. Snuggles. Up here in the U.S., we need some snuggles. Down there in the U.K., just run around naked. That's what I do in the summertime. It makes life a whole lot easier. Less laundry. You get all that air breeze going so you don't have to sweat near as much. It's a lot nicer. Just run around naked. All righty. So, love you too, Aaron. Don't be a stranger. And I will chit-chat at you guys later. Happy reading, everybody.